Good morning, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session. Today we'll discuss about the strategic issues of marketing of services. Right? In our previous lectures, we discussed about 7 P's of services marketing. We discussed about the various characteristics of services marketing. We discussed about the difference, that is how we communicate in services marketing, and today we'll discuss about the strategic issues related to service marketing. Right, because we start with the strategic issues, right, let's start with the types of service delivery processes. From there we have left in our next lecture. Right, so there are the types of service delivery processes. We were discussing about the processes, right, and that in service delivery there are the processes, there are various types of processes. Right, the first is inline operation, the second is on job operation, job shop operations, and third is intermittent operations. Line operations are what? Line operations are like self-service restaurants and shops are like the line operations. Right, the consumers move through a logical arrangements, right, or logically arranged operations which are arranged in a sequence. Right, like in the self-service restaurant, right, you have to take a token, then you can have your thing, right, and for you will make payments, and then if you want something else, right, you can behave in that way. Right, there is a series of sequence of operation that is known as line operation. This kind of delivery process is relevant where services you are providing are fairly standard and the consumer's requirement is of routine of nature. Right, the services that is the services are standard, services are of standard in nature, and the consumers requirements are of routine of nature. Next is job shop operation. Job shop operation is when a consumer requires a combination of services using a different sequence. The job shop type of operation is most useful or more useful, right, where there is when the consumer requires a services, right, with a combination of the services using the different sequence, right, like in hospital, right, restaurant, or educational institution. Like in hospitals, a few people just want to visit OPDs, right, others wants to visit OPDs and then to the some test, and then again to the OPD, and then for the admission for the surgery or for any other thing. That is on job shop operation. That is a complex combination of the services, job shop operations. Intermittent operations, right, that is intermittent operations are used where the services are rarely used, right, and the firms offering consultancy on the projects are is of intermittent type of the operations, where the consultancy is provided for the project. When project is over, we don't need the consultancy for the similar type of the jobs or for the same consultancy, right. That is known as intermittent services. Right, then designing the service processes. Right, see, designing of an effective service process is very important, right, and it requires a systematic plan and flow of activities. Right, while you are designing a service process, it is required that what should be the flow of activities, what should be done, and what should proceed which activities. There should be that it is well known that the flow of activities and all these should be systematically planned. A service blueprint, right, describes and details the flow of sequence. Blueprint is what? Blueprint describes the flow of sequence, right, interactions and dependencies among many activities that make up the service process. Right, so blueprint is what? In blueprint we try to find out before providing the actual services. A blueprint is what? A blueprint is we try to find out the sequence of the services, the relationship between the services, the interaction between the services, the sequence of the services, and dependencies, again many activities, right, that take place service process. Right, and it includes both the back end and the front end activities, right, that are well as the front end operations or processes, right? Customers, employees, and the service system interactions are mapped in the service blueprints. So what all are mapped in the blueprint? That the customers, right, how the customer will will interact, what is the role of the employees and the customers, and the service system interaction, everything is mapped in the service blueprint. Right? How to develop a service blueprint, right? It is important to develop a service blueprint. Blueprint is like a prototype. You can start developing a service prototype, right? The first step is identifying the services process to be blueprinted, right? So the first process is, it is important to identify the processes, right? Service processes. What should be the processes to be blueprinted? What all processes are required, right? Next is identify the customer or the customer segment experiencing these services. First is try to understand the process, what all processes should be there. Then try to understand the customer, right, experiencing the services, or customer experiencing the services. Identify the customer segment experiencing the services, what the perspective of the customer, what the customer feels about that service, right? It is important. Second is map the service process from the customer's point of view, right? So identify the services, try to understand the customer perspective, identify the customer segment experiencing services, right? And third is map the service process from the customer perspective, right? Customer's point of view. As per the customer point of view, try to map the service process, right? What the customer wants, right? What are the needs and requirement of the customer, how the customer will feel about the service processes, right? So try to map the service process from the customer's point of view. Then map contact employee actions and technology actions, right? Then it is important to map the employees actions, right? Who will do what, right? And how will you train your employees, what type of trainings are required, how the employees will interact with the customers, how to deal with customers. That is map the contact employee actions, right? How the employees will take care of the customers, and the technology actions, right? What all technical aspects should we take into consideration, so all the technical actions required, right, to carry out the services, employee actions and the employee trainings and actions and technological actions, right? Link the contact activities to need support functions, right? So then link the activities, right? Link the contact activities to need support function. It is required that all the activities should be linked, and add evidences of services at each customer's action step. Add evidences of the services at each customer's action steps, right? So it is important to add the evidences of services at evidences of services. We discussed about the evidences of services in details in our previous lecture. So it is important to add the evidences of services at each customer's action steps. So this is how you can develop a blueprint, that is identify the services process to be blueprinted. First of all, identify the processes, then try to identify the customer or customer segment, right? Then map the service processes from the customer's point of view, right? Map the employees and technical aspects and the actions, and then the link contact activities to needed support actions, right? And add evidences of services at each customer action started. Right. What is the role of customer in service processes? The customer plays a very important role in service processes. Customer is the role which a customer plays is the specifier. Customer is a specifier. The customer frequently needs to specify the purchase order and convey specific requirement for the desired services in order to start the service process, right? It is that customer specifies the requirements, the needs for the desired services in order to start the service process, right? And they are need to specify the purchase order. So they act as the specifier, specify the needs. The customer specifies the needs and wants, what they expect from these services. And then the transfer. Many services need the customer to perform preliminary tasks that require transfer of people or goods before the main services can begin, right? So role of the that is, they are the specifier, they are the transfers, right? That they should act as a transferer, right? Many services requires that they should take some preliminary actions before actual services begin, right, or take place. That is known as the transfer, like taking the children to school, or dropping off a letter to the post office, or driving a car to the service center are the examples of the transferer. If you want to service your car, right, get serviced your car, then it is required you should drop off your car at the service center, right, or you should drop the kid at the school if you want the services from the school, right? If the customer didn't move to the place of services, the service could not be provided, and therefore no value could be created for the customer or the supplier. So it is required that the customer should move to the place of provider, right? So it is required, at times it is required that the customer should move to the place of the service provider, right? Okay. See, there are strategies, right? Strategic issues in services, right? In strategic issues, there are various models have been proposed by many authors, right? And one of the models of strategic issue related to the strategic issues of the service of these services is the Gandra's model, right? This model suggests that the quality of services as it is perceived by the customer has two dimensions. One is the technical or the outcome dimension, that is what the customers get. So see, as per this model, the quality of the services, strategic issues, we are discussing about the strategic issues, right? And the services that the customer the quality, what the customer expect or perceive about these services has two dimensions, right? As per the customer perspective, as per the customer perception, there are the two dimensions of the services for the quality of the services. The first dimension is the technical, the outcome dimension. Outcome dimension is what the customer get, and second dimension is the functional or process related dimension, that is how processes and services encounters are perceived. That is the first is the outcome dimensions, right? What we will get of the technical dimension, what the customer will get, and the another dimension is functional or process related dimension, how the process and services encounter are perceived, right? Process first is technical outcome and the process dimension, right? These two have been termed as the technical quality and the functional quality, right? Technical quality refers to the outcome of interaction with the service provider that the customer receives. So technical outcome is what? That is an interaction between, it is somewhat like an interaction between the customer and the service provider, right? While the expressiveness with which the service is delivered and how consumer respond reflects to the functional quality. So technical quality is what? Technical quality is the outcome of interaction with this service provider and that of the customer, what the customer receives, right? That is the technical outcome, right? That is outcome of interaction with this service provider, right? That the customer receives, right? It is a result of interaction between the customer and service provider, right? Then expressiveness, right? Well, the expressiveness or the functional outcome or the functional dimension is what, or the process related dimension is what, the expressiveness with which the service is delivered and the how the customer respond reflect the service's functional quality, right? That is the expressiveness with which the service is delivered, how the service has been delivered, right? That is how the process has been carried out, how the services has been delivered, the expressiveness with which service has been delivered, and how the customer response reflect this service functional quality, right? And the how the customer responds to the service functional quality, that is known as the functional quality, right? Or the expressiveness. The quality perception process include much more than just two dimensions of service quality, right? So these are the two dimensions, that is the outcome dimension, the technical dimension, and the functional dimension. But the quality perception includes much more, right, than these two dimensions. Goods perceived quality is obtained when experienced quality meets or exceeds the expectations of customer, that is expected quality, right? So what is expected quality, right? Good perceived quality, you can say that a quality, we can say that the quality, we can perceive the quality is good when the experienced quality is better or meets or exceeds the expected quality, right? When we get more than our expectations, right, then we can say that good quality has been obtained, right? That is expected quality, right? Experienced quality meets or exceeds the expectations or expected qualities, then we can say that good the perceived quality is obtained, a good quality has been obtained, right? Even if the experienced quality is good, this means that even if the experienced quality is good, the perceived quality may still be low, right? Experienced quality could be low, but again the perceived quality is low if the expectations of customers are very high or unrealistic, right? Even if you are providing the good services but customer is expecting more, right, then the experience could be low, right? Then the perceived quality could be low, right? And while vice versa, the total perceived quality may be high even if experienced quality is not very good, if the customer's expectations the customer expectations are low, right? So the expectations of customer matters a lot, right? See, outcome matters, right? The when we can say that the service quality is good when the customers expected, that is the when the experienced quality exceeds or at least meet the perceived quality, then we can say that we have a good customer we have a good quality service quality experience, right? While the experience quality could be, even if the quality is good, experience quality is good, but again the perceived quality could be low. Why? Because of the high expectations or unrealistic expectations of the customer. And even if the experienced quality is low, the perceived quality could be high, right? Because of the very low customers expectations. So customer expectations plays a very important role, right? So see, there are the certain expected service qualities and the perceived service quality, right? Or the perceived services, expected services and the perceived services, and there in between these two services is the perceived service quality, right? And how we get the perceived service quality, that is through the image, that is the technical quality and the functional quality, right? Expected services is the traditional marketing activities. How expected services, what we expect is we started expecting certain thing through the traditional marketing activities. So marketing activities increases the or decreases the expectations, like advertisements, right? Field selling, PR, pricing, and external influences by the tradition, ideology and word of mouth is responsible for the expected services, right? And this perceived quality, that is, as I said, that the customer, if the experience quality is good, then the perceived quality and if the perceived quality may be low, if the expectation of customers are very high, if the expectations are very high, then the perceived quality may be low, right? The perceived quality may be low, right? Perceived services may be low, perceived service quality may be low, right? So perceived services, and there are the image is formed, what is the how we form a perceived service quality, that is through the technical quality and the functional quality, right? And this perceived service quality plays a very important role in satisfaction or dissatisfaction of the customer, right? The image of the company does not only have impact on the expected quality but also the perception of the quality experienced, right? So this advertisements or marketing not only impact the expected quality, what we expect from the quality, but also impacts the perception of the quality experienced, right? It works as a filter. If the image of service provider is good in the mind of customer, minor errors or mistakes are likely to be overlooked, and conversely, if the image is not good, right, or negative, the impact of the mistake is likely to be greater than otherwise it would be, right? So this plays a very important role, and the model suggests that the total perceived quality is not determined by the level of technical and functional quality dimensions only, but rather the gap between the expected and the experienced qualities, right? So expected and experienced qualities, right, that the technical quality as well as the functional qualities, these are the two dimensions which are responsible for the perceived service quality. But again, apart from that, there are many other things which plays a very important role in the expected and the experienced service qualities, right? Right. Another model of gaps, model of service quality, right? Gap model. See, gap model is what this model was given by PZB, right? They perceived that the service quality can be defined as external of discrepancy between the customer expectations or desires and their perception. So as per this, what is the perceived quality, right? Perceived service quality. Perceived service quality is what? That is equals to perceived services minus expected services. Perceived quality is what? Perceived service quality is what? That is the expected quality minus perceived services minus expected services, right? So service quality as per this model can be defined as extent of discrepancies between the customer expectations or desires, customer expectations and their perception, right? What they expect and what they perceive, right? So perceived service quality is what? Perceived service quality is perceived services minus expected services, right? They, on the basis of research, they identify the customer consider 5 dimensions in their assessments of service quality, right? There are the 5 dimensions on the basis of which the customer assesses the service quality, whether they are happy with the service quality or not, right? What are these 5 dimensions? Reliability. What is reliability of these services? Is the services reliable, right? We are getting good services. Then the responsiveness, how the service provide a response to the queries of the customer. Assurance is at the time of stress and when a customer is when a customer is doubting or not happy with the services or with the service provider, right? how they assure that they will make sure, how the service provider assures that they will make sure that the customer should get the best of the services, and they will try to sort out the problems or issues of the customer. That is the assurance. Empathy, right? The third thing is empathy, right? How the service provider interact, or how the service provider react to the problems of the customer. That is known as empathy, right? Like tangibles, right? The service, the tangible is, that is, as we know that service is intangible in nature, but tangible things like people, and then again the place, these are the tangible. This plays a very important role, right? If we have an employee and we know that they have an office, there are employees, and we can interact with the employees and can visit the office at any point of time. That plays a very important role. So these are the five five dimensions for the assessment of the service quality, on the basis of these dimensions, right, the customer assesses the quality of the services. The first is the reliability, second is responsiveness, right, assurance, empathy, and tangible. These are very important dimensions, right? See, there are the gaps between the service provider and the customer, and it is important for any of the service provider to fill up these gaps if they want a satisfied consumer, right? The gaps are the provider gap 1, not knowing what the customer expects, the listening gap, right? So gap could be because the gap 1 could be because you are not aware about the needs, or the service provider is not aware about the needs or want of the service provider, and it is because it is known as the listening gap. And it happens, right, because at times the service provider don't conduct the researches, right? So this is known as the listening gap. And the provider gap 2 is what? Not selecting the right service design and standard, right? This is service design and standard gap. First is not aware about the needs and wants of the customer. If you are not aware about the needs and wants of the customer, how can you provide the services as per the requirement of the service of the customer? And if customer is not getting the right quality of these services and not happy, how that customer could be satisfied, right? So this is the gap 1. Gap 2 is not selecting the right kind of service design and standards, right? If the standard service designs and standards are not proper, then again it would lead to the dissatisfaction, right? You know what the customer wants, but your design standards or the service designs or the standards are not up to mark. Now you are not selecting the right service design or standard, right? Then this could lead to the dissatisfaction because the outcome of the services will not be satisfied the customer will not be happy with the outcome or the technical aspects of the services. And the gap 3 is not delivering the service standard, the services performance gap, right? You promised something else and you are not delivering as per the promises. The standard of services are not good, right? Or below the promised services, not delivering the service standard, right? So this is the service performance gap. What you promised, you are not providing that. This is the gap 3. Gap 4 is no matching performance to process. That is the communication gap. Then again, service standard is when you are technically you promise something else and you are delivering something else. That is known as the gap 4, right? So this is the model, right, of gap model, right? First is, see, there are the service provider and the customers, right? Try to understand this model. What the customer wants, expected services and the perceived services, right? So perceived services, that customer expects something and there are certain perceived services, right? Customer has two things in their mind: the expected services and the perceived services. Expected services gap model happens when there is a difference between the perceived services and the expected services. Perceived services minus expected services, that is the perceived service quality, right? What we expect might be different. So perceived services and expected services, when there is a gap between the perceived services and expected services, that is known as the gap type. And at the service provider, at the service provider stage, right, there are 4 gaps, right? Like okay, first is the first one is between the service provider and the customer. Management perception of customer expectations, right? So gap then exists when the management is not able to understand the expectations of the customer, right? Then the gap first exists. It is between the service provider and the customer, right? What the customer expects from the services, right? And management should understand the expectations of the customers. But if management is not able to understand the expectations of the service of the customer, then the gap will exist. That is between the service provider and the customer. Management perception of customer expectations. Then gap 2 is it is inside the service provider, that is transfer of perception into service specification. Management perception of customer operations and transformation of perception into service specification. As I said, not selecting the right services, designs and standards, right? That is what is the management perception of the what is the management perception and translation of perception into service specification, right? It is important that as per the perception of the management, that there should be the transformation of perception into the service specification. If it is not as per the management perception, or if there is a gap between the perception and transfer of perception into service specification, if the service specifications differs from the perception, then the gap 2 exists, right? And gap 3 exists, right, when the transfer of this perception into the service specification, it leads to the service delivery, right, including pre and post contact, right? When there is a gap in the specification and the delivery system, right? Like 3 is not delivering the service standards, right? That is that you have to deliver a certain standards, service as per the standards, and when not able to deliver the services as per the standard, then the gap 3 exists, right? Service delivery, when the delivery is not as per the service specifications or the standard, right? And the gap 4 exists when you are not delivering these services as per your promises, then the gap 4 exists. That is the external communication to the customer, right? At times through advertisements, through PRs, right, through word of mouth, right, because of the external communication we perceive something, and as per the external you made some promises and you are not able to keep the promises during the delivery of the services, then the gap 4 exists. So this is the gap model, right? I hope now this is clear to you, right? How to measure the service quality? See, it is very difficult to measure the service quality, but again, customer design define the service quality standard, and measure can be divided into 2: the soft and the hard standard and measures, right? Soft quality and the hard quality standard and measures. Although it is difficult to measure the service quality, hard quality standards and measures are associated with measure processes, activities and outcome. For example, on-time delivery, right, the shortest possible waiting time, higher percentage of patients recovery in case of hospitals. These are the hard quality standards and measures, right? So associated with the had standard measures and quality standards and measures associated with the major process activities and outcome. That is whether you are delivering the services on time or not, right? Waiting period should be less, right? And should get the proper quality of these services. Soft quality of services are actually difficult to observe and are typically gathered by speaking with customers and soliciting their feedback, right? Soft standard provides employee with direction, guidance and feedback how to achieve customer satisfaction and can be quantified by measuring the customer perception and the beliefs. And survey qual is an example of sophisticated soft measurement system, right? So service quality it is important for the organization to measure the service quality. They can measure the service quality on the two bases, that is the hard quality standard on measures and the soft quality standards on measures or soft measures. Hard quality standards on measure can be measured on the basis of the outcome, right? What they are delivering and whether they are able to deliver as per the promises, right? They as per the promises or as per the standard, that is known as the hard quality standards and measures. While the soft quality, as the name stands, soft quality standard and measure is difficult to analyze or difficult to gather or observe, right? And it can be done actually by speaking with the customers and by getting the feedback from the customers, right? The soft standard provides employee with the direction, right? This soft standards these soft standard, when they get the feedback from the customer, this helps the employees with providing the directions, guidance, how to achieve the customer satisfaction, whether the customers are happy or not, right? What are the scope of improvement, how to make the that is how to achieve the customer satisfaction, right? And this can be quantified by measuring the and how can you do this, right? And it is important to quantify the customer perceptions, and the quantification of customer perception can be done by survey qual, right? And this is one of the method through which one can measure this soft quality standard, right? So survey qual, right? It is important to quantify the feedback or the perception of the customers, right? And this can be done with the help of survey qual method, right? Is this clear? Service life cycle, right? Every services has its life cycle. Service life cycle is an approach to service management that places an emphasis on how important the coordination control is across the various functions, processes and systems that are necessary to manage the complete life cycle of the services, right? So service life cycle actually plays a very important role. It emphasizes the coordination, that it emphasizes on the planning and the coordination among the various processes so that they can provide the good quality of the services as per this. They could provide the good quality and the standard services to the customer, and the customer should and could be and to keep the customer happy and satisfied, right? So customer, this is the life cycle, right? That is the service strategies. It is very important to frame the strategies. Strategy is what? Strategy is like a planning. It is important that you should have a plan of action. You should be well versed with the processes. What are processes one has to carry out, the sequence of the processes, that is blueprinting we can say, right? one should have the service strategies. How will you communicate that you are providing what type of the services, right? And what you will provide and how will you provide the services to the customer. That is the service strategies. Then design the services as per the plan, as per the standard. It is important to maintain the standards, design the services as per the standards, right? Continually, it is important that there should be an service improvement, continuous service improvement, right? So you have designed the services, but we know because of the advancement of technology, change in technology, change in the requirement of the customer, it is important that these services, that there should be a continuous improvement in these services, right? Then comes the service operations. Improvement, after improvement comes the service operations. How will you carry out the operations, right? Operations should be very user friendly, right? It should be like that users, that it should meet the expectation. The service operation should meet the expectations of the expectations of the customer. How will you provide the services to the customer? And then the service transition, right? That is outcome of the services, right? It is very important. These are the processes or the phases of the service life cycle, right? Service development, as we all know, that it is an end-to-end process, right? And the process of developing and launching a new services to be sold to the customer. It is an end-to-end services, that a new services has to be developed. This is a continuous process, and this typically includes the market research, service strategies, customer experience, marketing, operations, and launch of new services, right? So these are the phases of various services that before providing the services, it is important to carry out the market research. Market research is what? Gap one. It fulfills the gap one, right? That it is important to understand the requirement of the customers, right? Then customer then as per the marketing research, make the strategies, make the planning. What will you provide? How will you provide the services? The technical aspect of the services or the operational aspect of the services, right? Then try to find out the customer experiences, whether customer is happy with the services or not, right? Marketing plays a very important role. That is communication, right? That is only promises those things which you are able to deliver, otherwise it will lead to gap 5, right? Marketing, operations, and launch of new services. Then carry out the operations, and there should be a continuous development or change in the services, right? As I said that we can measure the service quality, that is the soft part of the service quality, through SurveyQual method, right? And the service quality measurement is a significant managerial tool. This SurveyQual is a significant managerial tool. SurveyQual is what? It is a tool to quantify the satisfaction level or the perception of the customer about these services, right? Tools to understand the needs and wants, right, of the customer, and this by the service provider, right? It can help the service provider to find the weaknesses and the advantages to make better services for the customer, right? Measuring the service quality, SurveyQual, there we measure the various dimensions. There are the 5 dimensions in the service quality in SurveyQual tool, right, which we measure, right? The first is the tangible dimension. There are the questions related to the tangible dimension of the services, right? The reliability dimensions, as we said that there are the 5 things which the customer expects, right? We discussed about this in our when we started our lecture, that the 5 dimensions which a customer expects from the services, right, service provider, and we try to, in this SurveyQual tool, we try to quantify those dimensions, and in this tool there are the various questions related to each aspect, right? The tangible for each aspect or each dimension. the tangible dimension, right? There are the questions related to the tangible dimensions, then the reliability dimensions, right? Whether what the customer feels about the reliability of the service provider. Do they feel like that customer or whether the service provider or the services are reliable? The responsiveness dimension, right? How the customer feel about the responsiveness of the employees or of the service provider. The assurance, right? Are they assured with the services of the service provider, and the empathy dimensions, right? There are 9 practical methods of measuring the service quality. First is the survey qual. It is a tool to measure the service quality. Then the post service rating, right? Another method is post service rating. That is, after providing the services, we normally ask for the feedback, right? Then follow up services, right? Again, this is again a method for measuring the service quality. Follow up surveys, right? Then in-app surveys, right? We conduct the surveys on the basis of app. Then the mystery shopping or documentation analysis, right? And then the customer effort scores, first contact resolution ratio, and the metrics analysis. All these are the methods for measuring the service quality, and the management or the manager can opt any of the methods, right? Survey qual is actually the most important tool or mostly used tool to measure the satisfaction of the customer, right? It is a multi-dimensional research instrument or tool designed to capture the customer expectations, perception of services, right, along the 5 dimensions, right, and believed to represent the service quality, right? So we discuss about the 5 dimensions, right? That is the service expectations, and these dimensions are related to the service expectations, right? That is the reliability, assurance, and service performance, right? And through this service expectations and performance is responsible for received service quality and customer satisfaction. Whether we have what we expected from the services and what we get from the services, and then received service quality, right? What we have received from the services, and are we happy with the received quality services or not, right? How they perform, right? What we expected, how they perform, and what we get, and are we happy being a customer with these services. Survey qual method helps us to identify these things. Actually, these are the dimensions, right? These dimensions, reliability, assurance, tangibility, empathy, and responsiveness are the dimensions. And on the basis of dimensions, there are items related, questions related to these dimensions, right? And these dimensions relates the 2 variables, that is the service expectations variable and the service performance variable. This leads to the received service quality, received service quality, and from this we can find out whether the customer is happy or not, right? Then QFD is quality function development, service quality function development. QFD, service quality function development, is a systematic method to help identify the customer needs for designing the product or services in a way that it consider the customer's needs first time, right? So QFD is what? QFD is quality function development, right? Service quality function development is a systematic method. It's a method which helps to identify the customer needs. This QFD helps us to identify the customer needs and wants for designing the product or the services. What the customer wants, we can design as per the services, as per the requirements of the customer, in a way that it consider the customer needs first time, right? That by giving importance to the customer needs. The QFD approach uses a matrix format that looks like a house, and hence it is called the house of quality. So in this, QFD uses a matrix format, right? This is like a metric format, right? Quality function development is like quality function development, QFD. Quality is meeting the customer's requirement, that is the quality, right? Function is what must be done, focusing the attention. Function, how to carry out the function, what must be done, right? That it should be focusing on the attention. Development is who will do it and when. This is quality function development, right? Quality is meeting the customer requirement, then only we are providing the qualities, right? If we are not able to provide meet the requirements of the customer, it means we are not providing the quality, right? It should be as per the expectations, right? So this is quality. Function is what to be done so that we can provide the we can meet the requirement of the customer, what must to be done, focusing the attention. And development is who will do it and when, right? This is QFD, right? Design, that is the designing the quality, right? And then reduced the field, reduce the cost, right? And these are the benefits of the QFD, right? Service culture, again service culture, it plays a very important role, and this comes under the strategy, right? Service culture can be defined as a shared purpose where everyone is focused on creating values for others inside and outside the organization, right? And culture is very important, right? Because it impacts the motivation of employees as well as it impacts the satisfaction of the customer, right? So service quality is what? Service quality is this service culture focus on creating values for others inside the organization as well as outside the organization, right? Service quality is where the employees are obsessed with the customer services. Employees are obsessed with customer services, nothing like that. That is required, right? So service quality, this is the service culture model. Service culture model is the leadership philosophy, right? A leadership philosophy because leaders give the vision and mission. What is the philosophy of the leader? And the culture or the environment, working culture takes a top-down approach, right? A leader is the one who sets the culture, right? So leadership philosophy. Then the strategic alignment, right? What as per the strategic, it should be strategically aligned, right? There should be no gap between the two. Knowledge management, right? That each and every employee should be knowledgeable. They can carry out the process as per the training. Knowledge management, the employee should be well trained, knowledgeable, right? And they should be able to carry out the operation as per the strategies. Performance optimization, it is in service sector, employees plays a very important role, and it is important to optimize the performance, right? Performance of the employees. So performance optimization should be there, and if performance optimization is there, right, the culture it would impact the culture positively. And the engagement platform should be there, that there should be engagement between the employees as well as between the employees and the customers, right? And employees and customer. We discussed about the three dimensions in our previous lectures. We discussed about the that is the triangular model or the three dimensions of the service provider, that is the management, right, employees and the customer, right? So there should be engagement, right, platform. Communication plays a very, very important role in services marketing, and it can be defined as a methodologies or techniques adopted by the companies to convey messages in a unique and a creative way, right, to their existing and the prospective customer. for their about their offering of products and services, right? You are communicating, you are communicating or conveying the message in a unique way, in a creative way to the existing as well as the new customer for these services, right? Delivery the services through intermediaries, right? See, the service principle is originator and the service delivery is intermediaries. The service principle is entity which creates the service concept, and the service delivery is an entity which deals with the customer during execution of the services, right? So we deliver the services through intermediaries, right? See, the service we deliver we create the service concept and then we deliver the services through someone, right? So these intermediaries through which we are delivering these services plays a very important role in communication. How they convey the messages, how they interact with the customer, that plays, how they portray your services plays a very important role. Then the electronic channels, that is means of telecommunication channel or electronic mission or method which may be used to connect with the market, right, or the services, right, or the customers. It includes this could be includes the email, right, WhatsApp channel, internet network, or wire transfer, etc. So this electronic media plays a very important role in communication nowadays, right? Then the franchising, it is a method of distributing the product or services, including the franchisor, right, who uses the brand's trademark or trade name, right, and the business system, and the franchisee, and they pay the royalty fee, right, or the initial fee for the right to do business under the franchisor name and the system. And these and again this franchising is again a method of communication to the through which you are communicating through intermediaries. These franchises are like the intermediaries. How they behave with the customers, how they communicate with the customers impact the business, because the franchisers are using the name of the franchisers, right? Then strategies related to managing demand and capacity, right? What is the demand management? Demand management is attempt to shift the demand, while capacity management is respond to demand, right? Right, demand management is requirements, right, from the side of the customers, and capacity management is response to the demand. This is a larger area of study, right, and both the long term and the short term decisions are required to fulfill and manage the demands and capacity, right? Demand and capacity. Demand is what the company demands or what the customer expects, and capacity is how you respond to that demand is the capacity. And both long term and the short term decisions are required to tackle with this demand and capacity, right? And there is another concept, that is the yield management system attempts to use the historical data and specialized algorithms to determine the optimal price to sell the inventories, right? The system can work on the real time and change price based on the demand, right? It is important to meet the demand, and how to meet the demand. Then yield management is a method, right? It uses the historical data as well as the specialized algorithm to determine the optimal price, how to sell the inventory, right? And this is one of the method to work in the this method works in the real time and change the prices based on the demand and the capacity, right? So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.